Tariq, a young tech engineer from Lagos, had been dreaming of the perfect way to ask his fiancée, Amina, to marry him. She was everything he ever wanted, beautiful, kind, and full of charm. For months, he saved money and planned a surprise proposal that would take her breath away. Amina had told him she was going on a work retreat at a luxury resort, so Tariq decided that would be the perfect place to surprise her. He wanted her to remember that moment for the rest of her life. But as the days went by, her texts became shorter, her voice on the phone colder. She stopped answering his calls, saying she was busy. Tariq tried to ignore the uneasy feeling in his chest, but his instincts wouldn't let him rest. Something was wrong. So he made a bold decision. He shaved his beard, put on tinted glasses, and applied for a job at the same resort as a driver. He told himself it was just to surprise her, to see the look on her face when he showed up with the ring. But deep down, he needed to know the truth. When he got the job and saw her name on the guest list, his heart raced with excitement and fear. He didn't realize that this romantic gesture would soon uncover a painful secret, one that would change his life forever. What started as a love story was about to turn into a lesson he'd never forget. When Amina arrived at the resort with her friends, Tariq's heart almost stopped. She looked radiant, dressed in a bright summer dress, her laughter filling the air. But what froze him wasn't her beauty, it was the man walking beside her. A tall, confident man with expensive sunglasses and the kind of smile that spoke of power and money. He held Amina's hand a little too comfortably. Tariq, standing by the car door in his driver's uniform, forced a polite smile as he opened the door for them. She didn't even glance at him. The woman he loved, the one he'd planned to marry, walked right past him without recognizing his face. Inside, his heart was breaking, but on the outside, he was calm, professional. As he drove them through the palm-lined resort roads, he listened to their laughter from the back seat. Amina's voice sounded softer, more playful than he'd heard in months. She leaned close to the man, Kamau, who was known around Lagos as a politician's wealthy son. Tariq's hands tightened around the steering wheel as jealousy and confusion mixed inside him. Maybe it was just work, he told himself. Maybe she was entertaining a client. But every time Kamau touched her arm, every time she smiled back, the excuses started to sound hollow. He dropped them off at the villa, keeping his head low, but his mind was racing. Why was Amina acting this way? Who was Kamau to her? Tariq wanted to scream, to confront her right there, but something stopped him. If he revealed himself too soon, he'd never know the full truth. So he played his role perfectly, a quiet, respectful driver who stayed invisible. Over the next few days, he watched from a distance. Every morning, Amina and Kamau had breakfast together by the pool, laughing like lovers. They took long walks on the beach at sunset, their hands brushing like it was the most natural thing in the world. Tariq drove them to private dinners, to parties, to secret meetings that didn't look anything like work. Each moment stabbed deeper, but he said nothing. He wanted proof, not pain. At night, alone in his small staff room, Tariq replayed the scenes in his head. The woman who once called him her forever was now smiling for another man. Still, a part of him refused to believe she could betray him. Maybe she was in trouble. Maybe Kamau was forcing her. Love has a way of blinding even the smartest hearts. But deep inside, Tariq could feel the truth pressing against his chest. This wasn't business. It was betrayal. And yet, he stayed. Every day behind the wheel gave him a closer look at the woman he thought he knew. Every ride chipped away at the dream he had built. The disguise that once made him feel clever now felt like a curse. He was no longer Tariq, the man planning a proposal. He was a stranger behind the wheel, watching his own heart crumble in silence. One quiet evening, the truth that Tariq had been trying to avoid finally found him. The resort was calm, the air thick with the scent of the sea. He had just finished dropping off guests and was walking past one of the private villas when he heard laughter, Amina's laughter. It was light and familiar, the same laugh that used to make his heart melt. But this time, it carried something different, something cruel. Curious and uneasy, Tariq paused behind the half-open door of the terrace. Inside, Amina sat across from Kamau, sipping wine under the golden light. Kamau leaned back, laughing loudly. "You see, foolish men are easy to use," he said proudly, swirling his glass. "They believe every sweet word, every tear. You just have to act like you care." Amina giggled, twirling her hair. "You're terrible," she said, but her tone was playful, not scolding. Then she added words that broke Tariq from the inside out. "He thinks I'm still saving for our wedding. Poor guy doesn't even know I'm already living my best life." Tariq's body froze. His heart thudded painfully in his chest, and his legs nearly gave out. The woman he had loved, trusted, and built his dreams around was mocking him, laughing about his love as if it were a joke. Every memory of her kindness, every promise she made, now felt like a lie. He wanted to burst into the room, to shout her name and demand an explanation, but he couldn't move. The truth had hit him harder than any betrayal could. He stumbled back into the shadows, his vision blurring. How could she do this? How could someone so gentle turn so cruel? For hours, he sat alone near the staff quarters, replaying every moment they had shared. The nights they talked about their future. The mornings she sent him messages saying, "I miss you." Now he understood, they were just part of her act. But amid the heartbreak, something inside him hardened. He realized that confronting her right now would only give her a chance to lie again. She was skilled at pretending, and he needed more than just anger, he needed proof. If she was lying to him, she could be lying to others too. What if Kamau wasn't the only one? So, Tariq made a silent promise. He would not just expose her lies, he would uncover the whole truth. He wanted the world to see who Amina really was, not the sweet face she showed everyone. He would gather evidence, piece by piece, until there was nowhere left for her to hide. That night, as the waves crashed softly in the distance, Tariq looked up at the dark sky and whispered to himself, "You fooled me once, Amina. But not again." It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about justice, and this time, he was ready to face whatever came next. The night after hearing the painful truth, Tariq couldn't sleep. His mind kept racing, replaying Amina's cruel laughter and Kamau's arrogant words. He had loved her with everything he had, and she had turned that love into a weapon. But now, his heartbreak was turning into something else, determination. If she had fooled him, she could fool others too. He had to find out exactly what she was doing, and this time, he wouldn't let emotions get in the way. The next morning, Tariq came up with a plan. The resort's security system often had small issues, so he offered to help fix it. Because of his tech background, no one questioned his skills. When he got assigned to check the system in Kamau's private villa, he knew it was his chance. With steady hands and a heart pounding in his chest, he installed a few hidden cameras inside, small enough that no one would notice, but powerful enough to capture everything. At first, the footage seemed harmless. Amina and Kamau spent their days laughing, swimming, and drinking. But soon, Tariq noticed strange things. Late at night, when most guests were asleep, new people would visit the villa, men in expensive suits, carrying briefcases. Amina would meet them privately, often dressed elegantly, pretending to be someone new each time. Tariq watched in shock as she flirted, charmed, and manipulated them into sending money or promising business deals. It wasn't just cheating. It was a full-blown scam. Every work retreat she had ever mentioned was actually part of this organized scheme. Amina and her group targeted rich, powerful men, using beauty and lies to take their money and secrets. Kamau wasn't even her partner in love, he was her latest victim, another name on her growing list. Tariq sat in silence as the truth unfolded before his eyes. The woman he once wanted to marry was a con artist. His heart hurt, but his mind was clear now. He saved every recording, every message, every word. He knew he had to do more than confront her. A public scene would just make him look bitter and emotional. This was bigger than a broken relationship, it was a crime. If he exposed her smartly, she wouldn't just lose him, she'd face real consequences. One evening, while reviewing the footage, Tarek whispered to himself, "You thought I was just another fool, didn't you?" His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with quiet strength. For the first time, he felt in control. He didn't tell anyone what he was doing. He acted like the same quiet driver, holding doors and offering polite smiles. But behind that calm face, he was collecting every piece of proof he needed. Tarek wasn't driven by revenge anymore, he was driven by truth. He knew that when the time came, Amina's lies would crumble under the weight of her own deceit. And he would be there to make sure the world saw it all. The final night at the resort was alive with music, laughter, and flashing lights. Guests dressed in their finest clothes filled the grand ballroom for the gala. It was the resort's biggest event of the year, and Amina was the star of the evening. She wore a stunning gold dress that shimmered with every step she took, her smile bright and confident. On her arm was Kamau, charming as always, proudly introducing her to wealthy guests and family friends. Everyone saw a glamorous couple. No one saw the lies hiding underneath. But Tarek did. He stood near the entrance, no longer in his driver's uniform, no longer hiding behind tinted glasses. He had shaved, dressed neatly, and walked in with the quiet confidence of a man who had nothing left to lose. Tonight was the night he would end the lies, not just for himself, but for everyone Amina had deceived. The music played softly as people chatted and toasted to success. Amina's laughter carried through the room, the same laugh that had once made Tarek fall in love. He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on her. The resort's manager gave him a small nod, everything was ready. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The music stopped. The projector at the front of the hall came to life, casting a bright glow on the wall. At first, the guests thought it was part of the evening's entertainment, until the sound started. A familiar voice echoed through the speakers. It was Amina's voice. "He thinks I'm still saving for our wedding," she laughed on the video. "Poor guy doesn't even know I'm already living my best life." The crowd went silent. People turned to look at her. Then came Kamau's voice, bragging about using foolish men, followed by more recordings, Amina's conversations with strangers, her fake promises, her secret deals. Each clip revealed a new layer of deceit. Gasps filled the room. Kamau's father, a respected politician, stood up, furious. His face turned red as he shouted for security. "Arrest her," he roared. Amina stood frozen, her face pale and her hands trembling. The confidence she wore so proudly just moments ago vanished. She turned toward the crowd, trying to speak, but her voice broke. "It's not what it looks like," she cried, but no one believed her. Then, from the shadows, Tarek stepped forward. His calm footsteps echoed through the silent hall. When Amina saw him, her eyes widened in shock. "Tarek," she whispered, almost pleading. He looked at her, his face unreadable. He stopped a few feet away and said softly, "Surprise, my love. You wanted a show, I gave you one." The crowd murmured, cameras flashing, whispers spreading like wildfire. Amina's world collapsed around her. For Tarek, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. The woman who once fooled him in the name of love was now facing the consequences of her lies, and for the first time, he felt free. The story of Amina's downfall spread faster than anyone could have imagined. By the next morning, her name was all over social media. Videos from the gala were shared everywhere, the moment her lies were exposed, her shocked face, and Tarek's calm words that ended it all. People couldn't stop talking about it. Some felt pity, others anger, but everyone wanted to know how a woman who seemed so perfect could deceive so many. The internet named it the gold dress scandal, and within hours, Amina went from admired to hated. Amina tried to disappear. She deleted her social media accounts, changed her number, and even tried to leave the city. But Kamau's powerful family wasn't about to let her get away. They pressed charges for fraud, blackmail, and extortion. Everything Tariq had recorded became solid evidence. The same resort that once hosted her luxury escapes now banned her name from its guest list forever. Cameras had once been her tool of charm, but now, they were what destroyed her. Tariq watched it all unfold quietly. He didn't post online or brag. He stayed off social media, away from the noise. Deep down, he wasn't celebrating. He was just tired. The woman he had once planned to build a future with had not only broken his heart, but also his trust in people. Still, he knew one thing: he couldn't let this pain define him. He had to move forward. He returned to Lagos, to his small apartment filled with unfinished projects and old memories. For days, he sat in silence, replaying everything that had happened. The disguise that once made him look like a stranger had become the thing that helped him see the truth. Love had blinded him, but the mask had opened his eyes. Slowly, he began to rebuild his life. He threw himself into his work, fixing old laptops, designing new systems, and finding peace in the one thing that had never betrayed him: technology. A few weeks later, Tariq received an unexpected call. A journalist who had covered the story wanted to meet him. She said the world had heard about Amina, but no one had heard about him. At first, he refused. He didn't want fame. But the journalist insisted, saying his story wasn't about revenge, it was about strength. After a long pause, Tariq agreed. The interview went viral. People around the world connected with his quiet honesty. He didn't speak with anger or bitterness. He spoke about love, trust, and how sometimes heartbreak can reveal our true purpose. He said, "I thought losing her was the end of my story, but it was actually the beginning of finding myself." Those words touched millions. Tariq had uncovered Amina's deceit, but in doing so, he had also uncovered his own resilience. What started as heartbreak had become a message of hope, and the world couldn't stop listening. Months passed, and life slowly began to change for Tariq. The noise around the scandal faded, but the lessons it left behind stayed with him. The heartbreak that once felt like the end of his world became the spark for something new. Tariq realized that if someone as smart and careful as he was could fall for a scam of the heart, then countless others could too. He started studying online scams, fake relationships, and digital fraud. Night after night, he researched how these criminals operated, how they used charm, emotion, and technology to trap people. He wanted to make sure no one else would have to go through what he did. With that mission in mind, he founded a small cybersecurity company from his tiny Lagos apartment. He named it TrueGuard. At first, it was just him and a laptop, working long hours and surviving on cheap coffee. He started helping victims recover their stolen data and track down fake online identities. His quiet passion and honesty caught attention. Soon, journalists who once wrote about his heartbreak began writing about his brilliance. Clients poured in, business owners, banks, even government officials, all trusting him to protect their digital lives. Within a year, TrueGuard became one of the fastest-growing tech firms in Nigeria. Ironically, the same heartbreak that nearly destroyed him had turned into his biggest blessing. The man who once wore a disguise to find the truth was now uncovering lies on a global scale. His story spread again, but this time, it wasn't a tale of betrayal, it was a story of redemption. People admired how he never spoke with bitterness. He didn't shame Amina or speak harshly about her. Instead, he always said, "I learned that love without truth is just a performance." Those simple words touched millions who had once been broken like him. During one live TV interview, the host asked him directly, "Tariq, have you forgiven Amina?" The question hung in the air for a moment. The audience waited, the cameras focused on his calm face. He smiled slightly and said, "Yes. I forgave her the moment I understood that she didn't destroy me, she redirected me. Pain taught me more than comfort ever could." The studio went quiet before erupting into applause. His calmness wasn't weakness, it was strength. Soon, his company expanded across Africa, creating programs that educated young people about online fraud and emotional manipulation. Schools invited him to speak, tech leaders wanted to partner with him, and even law enforcement sought his advice. Tariq had finally found peace. He had turned betrayal into a purpose, heartbreak into a business, and pain into power. What once felt like a curse had become his calling. And every time someone asked what inspired his success, he would smile and simply say, "The truth always wins, sometimes, it just takes time." Years later, Tariq's name had become known far beyond Lagos. His company, TrueGuard, was one of the top cybersecurity firms in Africa, and his story had inspired thousands. When he was invited to speak at a major international tech conference, it felt like a full-circle moment. The hall was filled with young innovators, business leaders, and journalists eager to hear him speak. As he walked on stage in a sharp suit, the spotlight bright on his face, he took a deep breath and smiled. He was finally at peace, confident, respected, and free from the past. But as he scanned the crowd, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. In the back row sat a woman with tired eyes and a quiet expression. It took him a moment to recognize her, Amina. She looked completely different. Gone was the sparkle, the arrogance, the gold. She looked simple, humbled, and older. For a second, time stopped. The memories came rushing back, the love, the betrayal, the pain, the truth. When his speech ended, there was a long round of applause. As people stood to leave, Amina slowly walked toward the stage. Her voice trembled as she said, "You still saved me, even when I tried to destroy you." The room fell silent. Tariq looked at her, not with anger, but with calm understanding. He gave her a small, gentle smile and said, "No, Amina, you saved me, by showing me who I really am." The crowd erupted in applause once more, louder this time. Amina lowered her head and walked away quietly. Tariq stood tall, feeling no bitterness, only gratitude. The disguise that once revealed her lies had now revealed his strength. And for the first time, both of them were truly free.